On the US side, with their side of it too, even when Bush was in, Bush with his handlers behind him, the whole staff behind him, the Cheneys, Wolfowitz and all the rest of them, had it planned to go into what they called revolutionary democracy. What it meant was forcing their system across the world, doing it by force. No time to bicker, no time to persuade, no time to put missionaries in there to spread the idea. It's time to just simply go in and force them into it through war scenarios and standardize the world. So you have positive freedom, where we all sacrifice globally now towards a common goal, some vague utopia of peace and happiness and some vague future. But in the meantime, we've got to be thumbprinted, iris scanned, bent over, all kinds of things poked into us, and x-rayed, and we have no privacy whatsoever because we're all in it together. The greatest slogan every war's ever had, and banners and propaganda pictures, we're all in it together. We have to sacrifice. And we all have to do it together. So when you do that, you see, you're training the public that when someone complains and says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get poked and prodded. The public themselves are conditioned to turn on you. Oh, we all do it. We all have to do it, We're all in it together. That's for the common good. Quite something. It's quite something. And when you go into the science fiction movies that's been put out for the last 30 years with the big G-men, the black outfits, dressed in body armor, faceless characters with machine guns, and always fighting terror, terror, terror. That was to get you used to what's coming. And they always have these scenarios where it's a bleak future with masses living in poverty, but there's still somehow terrorism out there, and they have to keep on top of it for their bosses, those who run the whole system. But these movies, as I say, are getting the public full of fear as well. You always create fear way in advance. And as I say, we all pay for it through tax money via the Pentagon to Hollywood. Lots of movies. I have lists of them that were all funded completely by the Pentagon. Now, this thing I'm going to read right now is right out of a science fiction for those who have watched all these disaster-type scenarios and bleak futures. And it's from the Games Monitor, it's called. Games Monitor. It's called London 2012, One Big Party or One Big Prison by Mike Wells. Listen to this, and this is fact. This is actually fact. It's right out of science fiction. Security precautions for London's 2012, that's the Olympics, include the construction of a 17.5 kilometre, 5,000 volt electric fence topped with 900 daylight and night vision surveillance cameras spaced at 50-metre intervals. On first sight of the fence, you could be forgiven for thinking you had slipped through a wormhole in the space-time continuum to find yourself on the perimeter of a Soviet-era Gulag. The code of practice for the operating CCTV at the London Olympics states that the threat of hostile individuals attempting to gain access through the perimeter is believed to justify the use of CCTV. As part of the command perimeter security system, CCTV will be deployed. And it says here, the 17.5 kilometre fence has 900 day-night vision cameras, blah, 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 and the 5,000 volt electrified wire. 5,000 volt electrified wire to protect their big party. I'll be back with more after these messages. This is Alan Watt, and we're cutting through the matrix. Reading an article that's like something out of a sci-fi movie to do with electrified fences for Olympic Games and all these cameras all over the place. I'm sure they've got sound cameras there as well, night vision, all that kind of stuff. They admit to that. But it's in a 17.5 kilometre fence. 17.5 kilometres with 5,000 volts going through it. It says here, it gives a feeling of a prison rather than that of a party venue. The use of military terms like hostile individuals and command perimeter security system highlight a contradiction between Olympic promise and reality, between the sporting party image and a security paranoia now made visible in the form of the Olympic perimeter fence. But there's a large and profitable industry supplying equipment, this is the important part too, and research to feed the paranoia of a new security mindset identified by the author Matt Carr, who comments, "A new genre of military futurology has emerged, which owes as much to apocalyptic Hollywood movies as it does to the Cold War tradition of scenario planning." That was the Rand Corporation scenario planning. Often outlandish and bizarre in its prophecies and always dystopian. This new military futurism sees threats to the Western way of life emanating not only from rogue states, weapons of mass destruction and terrorism, but also from resurgent nationalism. Conflicts over dwindling resources, migration, disease, organized crime, abrupt climate change, and the emergence of failed cities where social disorder is rife. That all came out, remember, out of the Department of Defense for Britain and NATO, from their think tank, and I've got the 90 pages of the report up on my archive section if you go into it. It's fascinating. This is exactly true. All this stuff comes right out of the scary predictions of all the possible ifs that could go wrong in the future. And they literally use your tax money to throw billions at every possible if, believe you me. And it says here, Joint Metropolitan Police and Special Forces anti-terror exercise. They had that there too, in advance of it. The exercise was so realistic that amputees were used as fake casualties, as can be seen from the bloodied leg. Loud explosions and gunfire was heard during the exercise. This is the photographer. "I left the scene as soon as the commanding officer threatened to arrest me under the Official Secrets Act for taking photographs." This is Britain. Ho, 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 ho. Joint Metropolitan Police and Special Forces anti-terror exercise. They had it there, as I say. Other security measures to be implemented for London 2012 will include facial and iris recognition, fingerprint and hand recognition, guards with attack dogs and search dogs. New software is planned to integrate all of London's CCTV cameras and will have see, that's very interesting, eh? New software. They're always upgrading everything because it's big bucks for the manufacturers who now have to change from missiles after the Cold War into all this stuff. See, we're the new enemy, you understand? New software is planned to integrate all of London's CCTV cameras and will have the capability to follow you through the city. Every individual can be followed through the city automatically. Just like Enemy of the State, the movie. A scheme to search people and vehicles will include machines capable of looking through your clothing. They have the portable X-ray scanners, folks. I mentioned that months ago. They have the portable ones, the cops have them in their cars. So they can go and laugh and TT and titter as they're looking at all the young females going by. The Air Force will deploy its Reaper pilotless drone aircraft, which will... Reaper, that's a grim Reaper. You understand? I love this military terminology. You're the enemy. You're the scum. The Reaper. Pilotless drone aircraft, which will carry laser-guided bombs and missiles, including the Hellfire air-to-ground weapon. While on the Thames, the Royal Navy will deploy its new £1 billion Daring-class Type 45 destroyer. These are also to be fitted with laser-guided missile systems able to shoot down a target the size of a cricket ball. It's rumoured that the London's Metropolitan Police are planning to use remotely controlled mini airplanes with surveillance cameras, in other words, spy drones, at the Olympics. A company likely to supply the equipment is Air Robotic UK Limited. Air Robot UK's website tells us that the Air Robot UK was chosen as the UAV unmanned aerial vehicle system to cover aerial surveillance at the London Olympics 2012, handed over Germany during the late summer of 2008. The system was deployed at the Mall and Buckingham Palace to provide real-time images to emergency services at the event. The Home Office, that's like the British they're in charge of all laws. It's like the Homeland Security, in other words. All laws throughout Britain. Ensuring the safety and security of the 2012 Games will be one of the largest, most complex security challenges the UK has ever faced. The Home Office's suggestion appears on an overstatement. Securing Britain from Nazi Germany during the Second World War and preventing global nuclear destruction during the Cold War would fit their description. But as Matt Carr comments, in recent years, the military establishments of the US and the UK have produced a series of reports that attempts to link the unthinkable in imagining future threats to the security of the West. The Olympic Act, which sets out various laws relating to the Olympics, gives the right of forced entry into private property to remove unauthorized advertising or protest banners. This is freedom for you. Even more worrying is that the right of forced entry is extended outside the police force to staff contracted to the ODA. That's the low-level thugs. Back with more after these messages. Have to sacrifice. And we all have to do it together. So when you do that, you see, you're training the public that when someone complains and says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get poked and prodded. The public themselves are conditioned to turn on you. Oh, we all do it. We all have to do it, you know. We're all in it together. That's for the common good. On the US side, with their side of it too, even when Bush was in, Bush with his handlers behind him, the whole staff behind him, the Cheney's, Wolfowitz and all the rest of them, had it planned to go into what they called revolutionary democracy. What it meant was forcing their system across the world, doing it by force. No time to bicker, no time to persuade, no time to put missionaries in there to spread the idea. It's time to just simply go in and force them into it through war scenarios and standardize the world. So you have positive freedom, where we all sacrifice globally now towards a common goal, some vague utopia of peace and happiness and some vague future. But in the meantime, we've got to be thumbprinted, iris scanned, bent over, all kinds of things poked into us, and x-rayed, and we have no privacy whatsoever because we're all in it together. The greatest slogan every war's ever had, and banners and propaganda pictures, we're all in it together. We have quite something. It's quite something. And when you go into the science fiction movies that's been put out for the last 30 years with the big G-men, the black outfits, dressed in body armor, faceless characters with machine guns, and always fighting terror, 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 that was to get you used